If ever you had a good, supportive family of origin or marital family, congratulations. Because those, if they go well, they're called gifting relationships. Our gifting relationships are usually the minority of our relations. It depends on who a person is, and your level of lessons and so forth. It doesn't make you better as a person, but let's just say it reflects better things. So to have gifting relationships is really a blessing. Never fail to say thank you to people who actually try to be loving and patient and forgiving and responsible. We can take it for granted. We can sometimes forget. Not everybody's like that. So if you've got a friend who's willing to be honest with you, God, give thanks to the gods of Olympus, man. Because it's rare and it's beautiful to have. Again, whatever level that might have been, even friends of the past, whether they passed on or not, high school friends or whatever. Stop and take a moment and just say, wow, thank you. If you have children, you can just casually have conversation. By the way, who's been your favorite friend, in this lifetime? And you can tell them your story. Well, I had a friend like this. And then ask them, let's get together and say thank you, and have a way of talking them, into kind of doing a prayer, and just saying thank you. And yet you're doing something very deep. It looks very casual for the child, but it's very deep because you're giving thanks and they're giving thanks. And then the person out there that you're thanking will feel, out of the blue, they'll feel this wave of something, support, love, whatever it is. They may be in need of that at that moment, as a matter of fact. But even if they're not in the need in that moment, they'll feel it whenever they are in need, because your prayers of love will reach them at the time most needed. And of course, the opposite is also true. There's people we struggle with. And you could still have that conversation with your partner or your child about, who have you struggled with and how so and why so. And instead of saying to your child, well, those people are bad, like, maybe that's the generation I was brought up in. When people weren't very nice, they're just bad, and, then there's people that are good. You can try to take it a little deeper by explaining to the child, wow, okay, what do you think you could learn from that? And mommy, daddy, had a friend like that too. They were kind of challenging. You don't say they were rude, bad, mean. Just say, yeah, sometimes it was really strange. I was confused, using terminology they could understand. I was confused by sometimes why they would be nice and then sometimes mean. But what do you think you could learn from that? You ask them, and then you can share what you learned. You can both kind of sit there. You can kind of show them by going, let me think about this for a second, and let them think about it. When you think they've had some time, you can say, do you have anything yet? And whether they do or not, you can say, oh, you know what? I have an interesting thing. Always talk at their level of understanding. Childlike, sweet, simple, clear. And then just, this is something I learned. And it's kind of cool, It also takes the intensity of some of our relationships that seem such a drag, and it puts them in a different kind of a vibe, a different air about it, rather than horrible, horrible, horrible. It starts to become a little more, at ease or relaxed, So, speaking of that, there are gifting relationships and there are the challenging karmic relationships. And those challenging ones are challenging. They're called that for a reason. And often those are people that are instead of they're on board, they're like, yeah, I'm willing to apologize for something or own something. They're being obnoxious, or they're just being defensive and all that. Whatever it is they're being, obnoxious, defensive, guarded, whatever. Not taking responsibility, whatever it is, it clearly will tell you what they're about, where they're coming from. It'll tell you what you're dealing with, not so that it corroborates your judgments. That's not what we're looking for. We're not looking for validation, but we're looking for a little different level of clarity. Like, okay, they're kind of defensive. I guess that's probably where they're coming from. They're feeling like that's how they were brought up or whatever, it's what they were taught. It's kind of a drag. I'd like to reach them at a different level, but that's not happening between us. Ask yourself, did I try to be as tactful as I could have, or did I attack and that made them defensive? And if you think you've done your best, God bless you, man. Just know you've done your best and not cave into the ego's doubtfulness. All that said, still another level I'm going to go to here. All that said, we shift to yet another thing, which is besides the people we would like to be this way or not be that way and so on, family. There's spiritual family. I mean, relationships, you have karmic ones and you have gifting ones. The gifting ones are giving you reward and decency as people because of the good work you've done in your life. You know, and you got to be careful not to overly sit and stew in the karmic relationships. You know, you're not a failure if by chance you don't give it 5 extra years of your life, you know, to try to make those work. Just do the best you can. I tend to hang in there a little longer than most people could with challenging people. I'm glad that I do that because one in every so many of them will turn around, and I'm really grateful. It's, you know, it's like a person that's taking care of animals, and you just go that extra mile, and then you realize the extra mile doesn't save every animal, but every time it saves some of them, you realize I almost gave up on those animals, and you wouldn't want to do that. Now, using that exaggerated example, though, doesn't mean I'm saying you should hang in there because you might save somebody, because then you're a rescuer. All I'm saying is, how far can you go? And check in within yourself and see what you can afford to do. I just happen to feel like I can afford going a little bit longer with some people. But then there are times, you know, that I've hung in there a bit longer, and I go, oh, that was kind of a waste of some, you know, an extra month, year, 5 years or whatever. All that I need, though, because regret serves no purpose other than we learn from it. That's the only purpose regret ever serves. That's in the Bible as exactly that. Don't stew, don't dwell on the regrets, but just say to yourself, if you did hang in there longer like I have at times, just say, what did I, you know, could I learn from that? What did I gain? What were my intentions? Was it being controlling? Was it being a rescuer? And generally I can say to myself, I feel pretty good for the times I hung in with relationships. My intentions were usually good. The outcome is usually good, but things still come to an end. And then when it comes to an end, can I do my best to make it a loving experience? You know, people don't like endings. So even when you do your best to bring a loving ending, sometimes they're still annoyed by you or hate you because you still brought it to an end. So you're thinking, well, we'll all just have a little celebration. We'll have a cake, you know, and we'll just enjoy and appreciate that we gave it our all. No, that's not what's going to happen. The person who doesn't get what they want egotistically is going to be the one that gets ticked off and, you know, still continues to jab or, you know, turn their nose up. I'm not being judgmental. I just don't want to speak to you. You know, turn their nose up, and that's just as rude. It's just passive aggressive. So, you know, people will do that, and it's not ours to fix them, but it is ours to be patient and learn our own lessons from it and move our own way. So, taking that yet again further, there's also levels of family. There's human family, which are mostly karmic relationships, and there's spiritual family, which are mostly gifting relationships. But the ego intends on taking even your spiritual family relations and turning them into karmic relationships. You know, we can sit, I can be in a workshop, you know, and a conference, and people just sit in the audience. They're just, wow, they're so enamored, they're in awe. God, the energy, the vibe, the love, we all sing together. You know, we all get in a circle and hold hands. We're all hugging. There's tears like, oh, you know, part of that's about, why couldn't my family be like this? I feel more loved by people that I don't even know at a spiritual gathering, you know, or singing, you know, some chant in a grove somewhere with druids and pagans, or at Unity, you know, doing our closing song, whatever it is. It always, and even in studying sacred sexuality, oh, you know, it's like people can learn to go, God, I recognize that even this kind of intimacy can be so loving and incredible. So we can have all kinds of versions of wonderful when we practice spirituality in all areas of our life. But it often happens. You gather with those people, hang around them a little longer, and they start to feel just like the resentment you felt for your family of origin. In other words, we cash them in. The ego's looking for even the most affectionate, intimate, oh my God, this relationship feels wonderful. This workshop feels wonderful. I'm being hugged. I'm being held. Everybody's praying together, dancing together, and we're like, wow. And then hang out with those people long enough. You know, go out to eat with them. Do something else, and you start to notice things that annoy you. And that's where the ego kicks in and starts to fault find. you have an option. You can also discipline yourself to not be around people and constantly look for fault. You can also choose, don't hang around with them so long, so many minutes or hours that you start to have a problem. If that's what you need to keep your ego in check, then do it. Just like if you talk to your mother and she's annoying and you find that, God, the first 10 minutes of the conversation goes so well. Once we reach 15 minutes, I want to kill myself, then don't go to 15 minutes. Go to 10 and hang up going, wow, that was pretty nice. Then earn 11 minutes, earn 12 minutes, earn 13. Oops, didn't go well. Back off to 11 again. Try 12 till you can afford 13. It's a way to discipline the ego that just acts like a spoiled child and tries to ruin everything all the time with nagging and complaining, tugging and pulling and whining. Just say no. There will not be any dessert right now, that kind of thing. Just say no. And remember, generally what I'm saying, two kinds of relationships, karmic ones and gifting ones. And even our spiritual family, there's two types of family, spiritual and human. And the spiritual family is mostly gifting. Human family, mostly karmic. But our job is to turn all of them into gifting relations, meaning I will not hate anyone. I will learn what I can from every one of these relationships, and I will affirm that every human being, whether they're family of origin or spiritual family, friends, in gatherings, I will affirm that every one of them has a light within them. So I make them all kind of even. I might choose to hang out with one 10 minutes and another 30. I might choose to live with one and not another. That's boundaries. But I still internally will affirm those things I just said. I refuse to hate. I choose to learn, and I also affirm to love. The love in each person. So our job is to turn all those relationships into gifting relationships and gifts. And keep in mind, though, the human relationships generally are challenging. They're karmic. That's why we're with them again. There might be a family member that is the gift in that family, the one that helps keep you sane or feels some collaboration and camaraderie in all the insanity. We're usually the black sheep in our families because we're light workers, we're spiritual and all that. Not better than anybody. We're just choosing to be awake or to choose to awaken. That's right. That's what we've chosen to do. And still, there's usually one other spy for the good side in the family that's the voice of sanity. Whether your family was just kind of neutrally awkward or whether they were full-on nuts, still there was often one person that was a little more sane. I've seen many a movie where everybody seems just off, but there's one in there that's, just trying to help, trying to plant some positive seeds and so forth, especially to those that are struggling to make it through, fighting to make it through that family or that life. Somebody's trying to feed them some light, even if the person doesn't know to call it that. They're somehow just good people. Well, they became sort of a living angel, a family guide, even if they're unconscious of it. So again, there are the spiritual family and the human family, and those are the conditions. Generally, the spiritual family is said to be our gifts. So it can be very addicting to be around spiritual people because God and love is addicting, but just not in the old gross way. It's addicting meaning a good way. How could it, we'll call it irresistible instead of addictive. It's addictive in the irresistible sense. God is irresistible. Love is irresistible. That's all. And so when we see that, and we feel that, and we hear that, we love it. So you have your spiritual groups. Go, man, go. Go and drink it in. Drink in every bit of light you can. And if you have a restaurant you go to that you like the food, it's pretty good. And there's another one where it's great, but they're absolute jerks that work there. An owner that doesn't care about anyone and abuses their clients or their employees, don't go. You can give up a little bit of the food that rates a 9 as opposed to a 7 or an 8. I'd rather eat foods of a 7 than enable the behaviors of somebody feeding me that's has the food of a 9 but a behavior of a 1. Hope that made sense. But it's, choose love, man. Support love and be supported by love. Let people come to you who respect the good in you, but also respect the good in others. I see so many people in my life that everything else is more important. It's kind of bizarre. They go, well, they may not realize this is the terminology, but they complain about their family. And they love spirituality. So that means anybody in the spiritual movement that they know is potentially part of their spiritual family. So what they do is, all of a sudden we have a spiritual festival, spiritual gathering, and they don't show because it was their mother-in-law's birthday. The mother-in-law, who berates them and hates them and they hate them and back and forth and all that. And yet they'll go. They'll go and honor duty and obligation before love and inspiration. It blows my mind. And I know that I'm odd. I know that I'm odd in a million ways from Sunday. But, I find it incomprehensible. I find it to be, I don't even understand how to begin to understand to this behavior that people would not choose to be in a state of love as opposed to in a state of duty and obligation. I don't care who the person is. You owe them nothing. You owe only God for your creation of being a beautiful being. When you pay homage to people that are abusive, you're actually fanning the flames on their altar of ego. Throw some sacrifices onto the altar too. How about your heart? How about your mind? You just throw yourself, your insides and out, man, onto the altar, watch it burn, and then actually accuse them and blame them for it. You're the one who's putting yourself on the altar. Say no to unhealthiness. Choose to become a customer to people that have integrity. Choose to let people know how much you appreciate them. I mean, it's so cool. And you don't realize the good it does for them. Remember, those people might have had bad days and they still chose to be nice to you on a bad day, for example. And yet, you might not have noticed how much work it took for them to try to push through whatever they were going through to continue being nice to you and helpful to you. And we forget to say thank you. So imagine if, for a moment, we get a clue and we go, you know what? I have forgotten that one relative of mine was the sanity when I felt so much insanity. I've got to say thank you. Not on Christmas with a card. Out of the blue, an email or something heartfelt that was spontaneous, let them know. You have no idea the good that it will do their soul. You have no idea. And when I say you don't have any idea, I'm not saying because you're small mentally. I'm saying because it's inconceivable what miracle consciousness does, what love does for people to raise their consciousness. It's immeasurable, but it's fantastic. And, I think, each of you have done good. So I'm thanking all of you. You can say, well, but you're not even sure that the good I did. It doesn't matter. My soul knows every bit of good because my soul is a reflection of the light of God. So my soul is fully aware and all-knowing. It's not an egotistic statement. The part of me that is connected with God is all-knowing. So even without Michael's little conscious brain knowing, trust that my soul knows and everybody else's soul knows. But we don't all take time to say, wait a minute, let me speak from my soul and say thank you. Thank you for every time you set self aside to do some good for somebody. There's good, man. When Jesus said, your treasure awaits you in heaven, fundamentalists might think that means that after everybody on the planet has been judged and gone to hell, you get to go and cash in on, that's how they think of it. Everything's about stuff. They're going to go and cash in. And so do good deeds because that means you'll have more gold coins in heaven. They don't have gold coins in heaven. They have it in hell. So if that's what you want, that's where you got to go to get it. Okay? Including Las Vegas. Anyway, I'm kidding, but not. Anyway, find better places to hang out than that. Find places that you feel light. And if you're the light in even a place like Vegas or whatever other place that seems kind of weird, shallow, if you're the light there, then be the light there. Hang out with other light workers, though. Don't get fogged in with the darkness, because in those kinds of places, man, there's a heavy energy that's a bit bigger than you as you know yourself to be. It's not as big as the part you don't know yourself to be, your divinity, but it's bigger than your humanness. That's why if you hang around with addicts, you're putting yourself in harm's way. Not because I don't think you have the strength to say no, but it means every day you're putting yourself in the fog that absorbs into your skin, into your soul. So, if you choose to do such a thing, make sure you do it with some camaraderie. Find some soul friends in those kinds of towns or places, whatever it happens to be. And if your family doesn't have any camaraderie like that, see if you can find some. And if there isn't enough, then limit your amount of time around such places or people, wherever that place might be. Some people, it's work that becomes that really dark place. Very sorry for that. I know how that must feel. However, there's another way. Heal what you can, learn what you can while you're there. But while you're there, you can also figure out an exit strategy and start planning for your new life. You don't have to live karmically. You can live with gifts and miraculously. So finishing what I was saying a moment ago, the people that make it an obligation to follow human stuff, there are comments Jesus has made, only a couple, and they're very consistent and clear. That which is flesh, and that which is spirit. So start embracing your spiritual family. And I have Unity of Sedona people come there. I don't want people to drag themselves there and make themselves, just because Michael said you should make sure it's a priority. Definitely make it a priority to be there some Sundays per month. Every Sunday would be ideal. Not for me, it would be ideal for you because you'd be fed consistently. But if all you do is listen to it and say, oh, that was nice, and then go back to your same old life, it's not going to absorb as well. It's not going to make as much a difference. Try to imagine that you're going to a mystery school. Try and imagine that you're going in, you're listening, and you will never be the same. You're going to sit and listen and absorb. Then when he's done talking, that guy up there, and the Sunday service is over, shut it and don't just jump to your garbage of life. Go into, okay, how do I breathe this in and see how it applies to me? Almost like you're training, because you are. Imagine that it's like a training. You're learning and training on how you're going to now apply this at work. How might you apply this with your ex? Actually see how it applies. I don't write anything in a book that I can't imagine applying. And sometimes when I'm writing the things, I'm imagining how it applies. So I'm taking the teachings of God, channeling through me, and then grounding it sometimes literally by imagining myself doing it. So that I remember the words getting real specific to breathe 3 times and 4, because I'm actually doing it to see. And I do it from a place not just as Michael. I do it as from a place of, if I'm all people, what would we do? What would do us the best? What would work for us the best? How many breaths would this take for the average person? What is better to do, less better to do, and so on. So you're imagining and sort of channeling the needs of everybody. That's how I deal with that. In your family, remember their spiritual family and give them the priority. Give them your grace. Give them your love. Tell them how much you appreciate all good that they ever brought you. Don't call and hate and criticize the people that didn't. But you can say things tactfully, depend on the person and circumstance. When they say, where have you been? We haven't seen you as much. You can say, oh, I've, been spending a lot of time working on myself. And of course, with that, you might get some jeering and laughter and teasing, but who cares, Just, you can say something tactful, like, I'm just spending a lot of time working on myself, and when they push the issue and they have an argument with you a week later, you can say, remember that I was telling you about working on myself? Some of that includes not wanting to have arguments. Instead of saying you're a jerk, say, I'm not really wanting to do arguments, but what I will promise is, when we hang up, which will be in a second, when we hang up, you tell them, I promise you, I'm going to sit with this and look at this and see if there's something I've done or said here. But in advance, let me apologize because you seem a little upset. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. But you seem upset with me. So if there's anything I can, that I've done, I apologize in advance. But I'll sit with this and look at this. Look responsible. They're still going to be annoyed because you're not doing things their way. But you can be a better person with that. Please absorb all the spiritual family members you have. I'm one of them as a brother, spiritual brother. You'll know of other people in your life that are somehow supportive of your soul's purpose, people that are rooting you on. It could be your counselor. Now, they may not want to call it that because they think there's a certain appropriateness. They have to keep a certain distance from you that feels, legalistic. But you, in your heart, can still say, you know what? You are like a spiritual brother, sister, thank you. It means someone I look up to, someone I appreciate. Not worship, not crave, not hate, not this, that. Just simply love and respect. It's fantastic. Jesus says in A Course in Miracles, he doesn't deserve your worship, but he does deserve your respect. He's worked it, man. He's lived it, and he worked it, and he came through it. So he's saying, I got there first. I woke up. Now, let me help the rest of you. Just respect and trust that I know what I'm saying because I've been there. And I, as a teacher, can say the same thing without any hesitation. I don't need or deserve any kind of worship or whatever else it might be, but certainly I deserve some respect. Do I crave it or insist on it? No. But I'm saying it's all teachers deserve respect for what they've done. If it's a math teacher, they deserve a little of your attention if you're in their math class because they walked it to learn the math to become your teacher. So all teachers deserve that respect. As long as they're respectable. I don't mean if a math teacher is a jerk and cruel to all the students. I'm talking about appreciating the gifts of that person, especially if they are people that live from a place that deserves respect. So keep that in mind, and also remember to be respectful to others. By the way, on this note, I hope you don't take this wrong. I did have somebody, I've had people say to me many things about really love, your work and all that. And I think that's great. It sounds arrogant to say, oh, great, I think I'm wonderful. The truth is, if I sucked at this, I could not, with clear conscience, do this work. I couldn't. I'd have to do something else. So I do this work because I do like it. I do think I'm good at it. I do think people gain from it. It's not a boasting. It's a reality that if I didn't think I was good at it, why would I even be doing it? It wouldn't make any sense. So it's okay that you recognize that you're a great Reiki practitioner, you're a great friend, you're a great partner, or whatever it happens to be. Don't boast it, but feel it and appreciate it. And there have been times in my life people say, God, you have such an energy about you. Were you one of the apostles or this or that? And I don't really comment on those things. The few times I've had were to friends and they ended up abusing it anyway. So it's not worth doing that, because people will either worship you or use it against, because that's the human ego trying to destroy what you share. So I don't really go there, but sometimes, a few times I've had them go to the extreme of, were you Jesus in your previous lifetime? This happened in, for example, Japan. The promoters and so forth, they were saying, we're talking amongst people, and people are wondering, because they come from such a childlike, beautiful, clear simplicity kind of place. And they were all talking, feeling such, wow about me. And they were like, we're wondering, like maybe you were Jesus. I'm thinking, wow. I mean, it's funny. It's quite an honor, but it's also kind of silly from my mind. I get it and I appreciate it. I'm not saying they're silly. The people are silly. I'm saying it's kind of silly because I have nothing to offer that Jesus, didn't offer a billionfold. I'm a human being just teaching it as I understand it. Jesus embodied it from mind, body, soul. Jesus embodied it inside, outside, outside, inside perfectly. I'm just working it. I'm kind of in it and unwinding and letting it in, and then letting some parts out that aren't congruent. And I'm just playing. I'm just working it. My relationship with Christ consciousness is a yoga relationship. It's a working it and unwinding it and opening. It's like that. It's just a beautiful dance, but it is a dance. Jesus, the dance bursts and he completely embodies. So I would be kind of scaling down a bit for Jesus to say, okay, I'm going to come back and be Michael. That's not to berate myself. I'm just saying it's the truth. And I think but it is beautiful that people thought it. So you know what? I take a moment and say that they even thought that is quite beautiful. Thank you. And to be able to say thank you, why? Because it strokes the ego? No. It doesn't stroke my ego because I'm sober enough to not even get interested in it doing that for me. In fact, like I said, it makes me kind of laugh. But what I can do with it is say, thank you. By you saying that, that means you saw something good. And the only way you can see something good is if you accessed a good part of yourself. So good job for that. It also means you might have seen something you thought was good in me. Wow, thank you. I mean, I am really appreciative of that. It also, for me, would make me stop and say, that's pretty big, man. They saw that much goodness. And you know what it does for Michael Mirdad? Is it makes me say to myself, I probably need to raise the bar a bit more and try to do that. If somebody's seeing that level of goodness in me, I'm going to do my best to actually raise my level of consciousness a bit more so I can live up to that standard. That's how I am. I don't know about you, but think about it. If my children said to me, you know, Dad, I was talking to my friend, you know, let's say when they were little ones especially, I was talking to my friends and they say, you're the nicest dad of all. I don't just go, well, of course I am. I go to myself, I think, oh crap. I better do my best to really live up to that, because everybody, the more good would come from it. Not because I'm going to try to live an ego stroke. More good would come from that. I try to raise the bar to become as good as people might see me to be. I mean, that's how I am anyway. Is there a question?
There's a question.
Sorry?
Someone wants to know if Mary Magdalene was Jesus' teacher.
Was Mary Magdalene Jesus' teacher? How could you teach the Christ? And then there's a difference between Jesus at 10 and Jesus at 30 or 33. Mary, you could say everybody was a teacher of Jesus in the sense that he would look at anyone and anything and see something that he would absorb and learn from. Not learn as in, I now have raised my understanding. For example, he saw people that demonstrated faith in him, and he went, wow, can you believe this? I haven't seen this much faith in anybody. So there were moments that people wowed him the way I have just described, going, wow, I really love what that person said. It's really opening me up to a new level. So there's that level of learning. Educationally, no. You know, when Jesus was a child, he had teachers at various schools and systems, as an Essene and so forth, you know. Masters all over the planet taught that young boy because he was integrating all their teachings. But no, not a teacher as our fantasies might want to conjure. And I'm sorry, I know, you know, some folks want to make it kind of a romanticized thing. Mary, you know, you can conjure these things up, and there are people that are going to tell you that they channeled even Mary, who said, this is Mary. I'm coming to you from the 18,000th dimension, and I want to let you know that I was Jesus' teacher. I was Christed before Jesus, but out of duty and sacrifice, I decided to set that aside for a moment so I could let him have the limelight. You know, because he had Leo in a more favorable position in his astrological chart. I know people say that, and it might make you go, wow, that's amazing. But just, you know, you don't have to buy that. There's a Gospel of Mary Magdalene that she wrote. It's in fragments, but she wrote it. Why not listen to her instead of people that make crap up in the spiritual community, okay? And she makes it very clear. I loved this man. He was an amazing master of masters. But I saw in him divinity. So when I saw that person embodying that level of divinity, I chose to let him be my master and said, this is my soul's subservience to God. Not just a woman to a man. That's not it. This is my soul saying, teach me, master, meaning my soul to God. Not God, Jesus, but God. It's a metaphor. And so she loved him, and she loved what he embodied. In the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, she said, plain and clear, when the apostle said, why does Jesus teach you sometimes things he doesn't teach us? Sometimes almost more spiritual, deeper things. And you know what she said? She said, because I would believe anything he told me. Meaning, I am totally open. I trust him 100%. So she demonstrated the divine feminine. The divine feminine means humility, by the way. The divine feminine means a state of openness and humility. That's why the chalice is a symbol like this. I'm open. If we start to make masculine the divine feminine and say, the divine feminine is the warrior, the divine feminine is the leader, then what you're doing is you are closing the chalice, pushing your hands up saying, I need nothing from the higher realms because I have everything I need right here, and now you've become a man. Okay? You just become a man. The woman, meaning the divine feminine in men and women, needs to look like this. The last shall be first, and the first shall be last. So if I say, what do I need to learn today? Who am I? What should I be doing with my life? And my answer is this. I don't know. As soon as I do that gesture, it's symbolic of saying, I, the little ego I, do not know, so show me. And then this symbol of me being open allows the floodgates to pour, and I become a channel. The Magdalene is so perfectly the divine feminine, a symbol of the divine feminine. She's a symbol of the divine feminine as the maiden, meaning the girl, woman, and Mother Mary as the matriarch, the mother. They're two symbols, two versions of the divine feminine, but two different versions. One the mother, one the daughter. And ultimately, all women and then men need to be both. The divine Father God, the divine Son God, the divine Mother God, the divine Daughter God. We have to integrate all those archetypes, the male and the female, the older patriarch, matriarch, male, female, and so on, and the younger. The younger because it has a value. It's the playful, it's the Psyche versus Aphrodite. It's the younger maiden who still feels sexy, and it's the younger maiden who says, "Show me, I'm excited." And then there's the mother who says, "It's time to put away some things and take care." Now she's the nurturer, she's the mom. She nurtures, she feeds, she takes care. You see, the leader, female but leader. And then there's that younger girl who's got the energy and excitement. And the archetypes seem so different in Greek mythology, they didn't get along very well. Our job is to reconcile their differences and bring the mature woman and the youthful woman together in one being. Bring them, reconcile them. Make because they can have their extremes. The maiden can be very, I don't want to do any work, I don't want to break a nail. And the mother's like, an extreme. The mother can be bitchy and never, happy with anything. Just like moms can be sometimes. So you bring the mom away from her extreme negative, the maiden away from her extreme negative, and you bring the good from each and you merge them together. You find that you are the perfect woman. Even if you're a man, your femininity is perfected. And the same has to go with the male archetypes. It's more than you asked, but I'm just giving a bigger picture of a fuller picture of it, because even the masculine that can be too controlling and intense, back it off a little bit, and he's a leader. And he knows how to say no. Someone's trying to hurt you, he says no. The man, he stands up. They can sense there's someone at home here. You don't break into this house, I'm here. And at the same time, there's the youthful boy who never loses his innocence and his silliness. You can see that in me, I think. I see it. People, I think, have seen that playful side. It's something I don't think will ever go away. I could probably be, if I live to be 100 years old, you're probably going to still find me, looking at books, and materials on fairies and watching movies, more often cartoons than dramas, and I'm not into the crap, murder mysteries and all that. I love soul, I love spirit, and I love that youthfulness. Even my diet's a great deal of what a kid would eat. So that's just part of me. And the vitality level that I have. That's because I feel somewhat integrated. In any case, I know that question about Magdalene and her role can go a lot of different places. I probably can sound like I'm not agreeing, corroborating, or supporting some of the roles some people would like to put her in. But the truth is, because some of the roles they put her in are not worthy of respect. They're just ridiculous, and they're making up things to fit their ego. But what I believe of Magdalene is actually far greater than anybody makes up in their little stories about her. What I believe about her is nothing of an ego status. It's a soul status. She symbolizes, as does Mother Mary in her way, they symbolize this perfect receptivity to say, here I am. Remember when Mother Mary was being visited by an angel who came to tell her she would be impregnated? She said, I am the handmaiden of the Lord. If everybody said that as their morning prayer, the whole world would change in a day. It's a perfect divine feminine prayer. I am the handmaiden of the Lord. And Mary Magdalene made herself that available. In one of the misinterpretations in the Lost Gospels that says that she was Jesus' companion, and then the people that want to romanticize, and they do that to humanize her and humanize Jesus, which tears them down. They think it raises them up, but it only raises them their ego, and of those beings, but also of the people that try to embellish these stories. The real story is the translation for she's his companion is the same word for his mother, his daughter, his sister. It meant she was this perfect other. That's all. And she was choosing to be. You tell me and I'll do it. I believe it. I trust you. And it's like if any of us had a near-death experience and we come out of it going, oh my God, there is a God. And people around us are like, no, you might have been imagining it. You know it, you feel it inside and out. That's how she felt when she met Jesus. That's how people feel when they meet me often. And I hope it's also true when they meet you. That you are a presence enough to where they go, what is this? It's profound, because you should create profound feelings in people. If you're being a great person, if you're being loving, you're being nice, and then you start to become really good at whatever it is you do, you kind of shake them up. There's people that have met, spiritual teachers and non-spiritual teachers alike that had such an energy, it kind of quickens something inside of people. And then people don't know what to do with it, so what they do is romanticize it. Wow, what is this feeling? I need to marry you or be in love with you or fantasize about you. So they do that with Mary Magdalene. They do it with Jesus because they don't understand what divine love actually feels like and looks like. And so they can't wrap their mind around it, so they make something up that feels a little more familiar to them. Must have been romantic. And they don't understand what it means to sublimate sexual energy, for example, and turn it into absolutely blissful experience. They don't know how to sublimate human desires and fantasies and turn them into fantastic states of consciousness. So that's okay. Everybody is at the level they're at. If none of this answer made any sense, I apologize. If it made sense but you didn't agree with it, I apologize. That's okay. If you happen to see her or Jesus or me or anybody else in some other way than I'm exhibiting it or depicting it, that's fine. Hear it how you want to hear it, feel it how you want to feel it, because it'll somehow serve where you are at this time. I hope it serves you. If it doesn't, then dump it and get a different opinion, okay? I pray this has all made sense, and I bid you all to have a great, great day and a great week. As I said, I'll be in Dallas if you guys want to join. We'll try to stream out some of it to you, perhaps, if we can, from there. But they're such a great center, I really appreciate. They're really trying to build something new there. They've had church there in the old days, and it was a little churchy to a lot of people's standards. And because it was churchy, the older fashioned people in the area populated it. They had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of attendees because it was old fashioned enough to fit the people of the region. And so it was full of New Thought people, but old fashioned New Thought people. And then they went through a lot of changes, a lot of losses, a lot of endings, and just unhealthy stuff. And now what they're doing is rebuilding, saying, you know what, let's try to build a new light here, a new vision, a new energy. And so it's a steady upward movement in more and more youthful, I don't mean young age, youthful, spiritual, bright people attending, not people that are choosing to be as dark or gloomy or judgmental or old school. So I really admire it, and I do go to really great churches. If you see me as a center or at a church, let's say 1 year, and you don't see me there the next year, it's probably not a good sign. So whoever those places are, I've had them from coast to coast. I've experienced them in a couple states on the West Coast and some on the East Coast. When the darkness starts to eat them alive, I don't feel the call to go there. And I don't just mean darkness as in bad, evil, negative. I mean even when they allow themselves to be more interested in old school teachings, and they sometimes ask me not to mention God too much, if you can believe that. It's true. They ask me to not mention Christ, because that's kind of old school, which means they're in no school. They're not in anything that's going to teach their soul, because you cannot exclude God nor Christ as a consciousness and expect to get anywhere. So in such places, to thine own spiritual self be true, guys. So I am, and so some of those places, you'll not see me back there. And it reminds me, and it's very similar, Jesus went into the temple, and in one version of the story, Jesus goes into the temple, and the Pharisees, which are just like the board members and the ministers of some churches that I don't go to anymore, the Pharisees, they'll say, They're picking on him and working him and trying to trick him into this and that and try to catch him because they want to prove themselves superior to the teacher, not to the priest. The priest is a priest. The teacher is beyond a priest and of any denomination. So Jesus shows up. He's the teacher, and he just cuts them down with his clarity. There's nothing they can pull off with him. And when they finally push their luck and try to commit such darkness that he finally just puts them in their place, he ends it with the words along the lines of, "You will not see me here again until you have learned how to cry." And what he's saying is, you will never see me in your center again until you learn an ounce of humility. And you don't have it when you tell me I cannot teach God or Christ. You're being ridiculous. There's other spiritual words for it, like idiotic, but I'll try not to use those because you might take it too personally or seriously. But it's idiotic. It's stupid beyond comprehension that spiritual teachers, centers would do such a thing. And they do it, not just to me, they do it all throughout the world. The spiritual hypocrisy. We all make mistakes, mind you. But when we live and thrive off of our mistakes and hypocrisies, something's really wrong. So we need to wake up and own those pieces and keep refining them and moving forward. Whether you're a student, a master, or a teacher, keep moving forward and growing. We should all be refining. And when you look at us, Jesus said, when you see me, you see the Father. That's the goal, guys, is to let all else be purged out. Either the easy way or the hard way, and hopefully the easy way. All the nonsense to be purged out. But know that when you see me, man, you see me walking, you see me teaching and walking the walk and living the life. There are people, if only I enabled some more behaviors and attitudes, I could have even more people attend where I teach at Unity of Sedona. I could easily add a third service and fill that one up. But I know that there's a limit to what I'm going to be willing to do. And I won't enable people's egos. And so I teach, and it's God, and I as spiritual as I can. The Christ moves through, and it's great. And only people that are willing to see and feel that Christ consciousness can handle it. And it's kind of cool. I could water it down and get another 150 people in there, and I cannot, and I will not. And that's the way it is. As much as I love people and try to be sensitive to their needs, there's a line that we all have to draw, and that line is what we can afford. And I can't afford to placate egos, much. And whether it's friends, students, attendees, that's not a direction I can go. Not because I judge it and hate it and fear it. I'm just already moving so quickly in a different direction into the heavens and bringing the heavens with us right here. Every time I'm teaching, I do my best to bring heaven here and now. And every once in a while, even on these Facebook things, there'll be somebody who says, "Who do you think you are?" And they would never even understand the answer to that, because I would only be able to say, hopefully, only what God thinks I am. And, that would be pretty amazing, pretty big for a person that wants to pick at, an ego and say, "Oh, you think you're something." Guys, Jesus said, "You are all gods and goddesses." So who are we to argue with that? We are. We are gods, goddesses, and now we have to do our best to live up to that. If I try to just act like one, then I'm just a jerk, I'm just a hypocrite, and that's not very cool. But imagine trying to live up to that. Do our best to live up to it as a parent, as a lover, as a friend, as a whatever else we do in life. Do our best to live up to it. Be of service, help others. That's how you can test your growth. It's not how great you become, it's how much you're willing to still get in the trenches and help people on a day-to-day basis. Be of service. Help people, man. Help everything you can without becoming a rescuer. Help where you can, how you can. Be the voice of reason. Be the voice of mediation when people aren't understanding each other. Be a voice of sanity. And be a voice of strength when you see the hypocrisies. Lovingly, tactfully say to those churches and centers, "Hey, you know what? I can see there's a little something here." And most of the time they will not care and they will not listen. So don't get your heart broken. Just understand you're up against something that is very entrenched. It's been around for thousands of years. And Jesus himself went up against it, and they crucified him. They did. And he let them, mind you. He chose that. He let that. But he did see it for what it was and said, "You guys are hypocrites. You pretend to be way showers to God. You're the opposite, which means you offer only harm." And he said, and there's a I'm paraphrasing, there's a special karma for those kinds of people. And it's not a good karma, man. It's not good news. So if you're going to pretend I'm a yoga teacher, then try to live up to yoga. If you say you're a parent, be a good parent, man. Love, 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 love. Whatever you say you're going to do, try to do well. And well doesn't mean perfectionist. It means do well with as much love as possible. I pray this has all made sense. I pray that, you guys have the patience to understand when I say these things, that they keep in perspective. Because I'm just sharing, from my heart, this is me, and sharing my personal experience and teaching at the same time. So many blessings to you all. I pray to see you soon. Pray you can join us somewhere along the lines. And remember, you can get on our Facebook, likes and all that, friends. And again, only share the word with people who are, truly interested in such a thing, okay? Blessings to you all. Peace be with you. Bye-bye.